The world thought they knew Meghan Markle. The world thought they understood her rise from a relatively unknown actress to a global icon, a woman whose life seemed like a fairy tale, punctuated by glamour, glitzy galas, and a fairy tale romance that ended in the corridors of royalty. But what if everything you thought you knew was only the surface? What if behind the carefully curated Instagram posts, the perfectly timed interviews, and the public appearances, there was a secret so explosive, so shocking, that it could shatter the image of Meghan that millions had admired? And what if the person holding the key to this secret wasn't a rival, a tabloid, or a stranger, but a trusted friend, someone within her inner circle, someone like Jessica Mulroney? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Jessica Mulroney, stylist to the stars, friend to the royals, confidant of Meghan herself, has always had a reputation for discretion. In the world of Hollywood and high society, loyalty is everything, and Jessica seemed like the epitome of it. Elegant, composed, influential, she had access, she had insight, she had trust. But trust, as it turns out, can be a double-edged sword. Because behind closed doors, even the closest friendships harbor tensions, secrets, and the occasional betrayal. And when the world finally got a glimpse of what Jessica had revealed, well, the fallout was immediate, dramatic, and utterly irreversible. Imagine this. A video emerges. A video that the public was never supposed to see. A video that hints at a private affair, a hidden liaison, a moment of scandal involving Meghan Markle and a co-star from her famous series, Suits. Not just any co-star, but someone who shared her long hours, her late nights on set, the camaraderie that comes with making a hit TV show. The timing was shocking. The circumstances were explosive. And the implications? They were enough to send the media into a frenzy. But let's pause for a moment. Before you judge, before you rush to assumptions, consider the context. Meghan's life before this point was anything but ordinary. She had been married once before, to Trevor, a man whose name still resonates in Hollywood circles. Their marriage, by all accounts, was a whirlwind, full of promises, aspirations, and the kind of youthful optimism that often blinds people to underlying cracks. While the world only saw the glossy photos and the carefully staged appearances, the reality was far more complex. Relationships, careers, and ambitions collided in ways that few outsiders could ever imagine. And then there's Jessica. Why would Jessica, someone so close to Meghan, leak this information? What could possibly motivate her to risk professional and personal ruin by exposing such a deeply private matter? Was it personal animosity? A sense of moral duty? Or was it something far more calculated, a move designed to control the narrative before anyone else had a chance to? These are questions that swirl around the leak, questions that no one has definitively answered. But the intrigue is irresistible. The drama is irresistible. And the consequences? Well, those are still unraveling. The first whispers of the video began circulating in Hollywood circles months ago. It was a story punctuated by uncertainty, speculation, and the usual denials that accompany such explosive revelations. But as often happens in the age of social media, rumors have a way of escaping the controlled confines of private conversations. Screenshots, whispered testimonies, and off-the-record tips began appearing in entertainment blogs, tabloids, and eventually, mainstream media outlets. Suddenly, what was once a private secret became a public obsession. And what makes this story even more captivating is the timing. Meghan, by this point, had already become a global figure. Her transition from actress to royal, her decision to step back from official duties, and her efforts to carve out a new life alongside Prince Harry had all been meticulously documented. Every move scrutinized, every word analyzed. And now, in the middle of this carefully managed public narrative, a scandal of this magnitude threatened to redefine everything. For the world, it wasn't just about a leaked video. It was about the narrative of a woman who had been idealized, critiqued, and mythologized in equal measure. So what did the video show? That's the question everyone wants answered. And here's the challenge. The details are elusive, partially obscured by legal maneuvering and public relations efforts. But the pieces that have emerged paint a picture of complexity, tension, and human vulnerability. A co-star who shared close quarters with Meghan, a friendship that blurred lines between professional and personal, and a private life that collided unexpectedly with public perception. And in the middle of it all, Jessica Mulroney, a friend, a stylist, a confidant, who suddenly finds herself at the center of one of the most talked about revelations in recent celebrity history. Let's break it down further. Consider Meghan's position. An actress on the rise, navigating Hollywood with all its charm and pitfalls. Long hours on set, emotional intimacy with co-stars, the pressures of performance, the constant scrutiny. It's an environment ripe for both opportunity and complication. Add to this the personal history she carried into the relationship, the emotional baggage, the expectations of a young marriage with Trevor, the societal pressures of being in a high-profile union. And the stage is set for tension, conflict, and secrets. Now, add Jessica into the equation. Her relationship with Meghan had always been portrayed as close, supportive, and unshakable. Jessica had access to Meghan's world in ways the average person could only dream of. She knew the schedules, the events, the personal nuances. She was a trusted insider. And insiders, as history repeatedly shows, have the capacity to influence narratives in ways outsiders cannot. A single leak, a carefully timed revelation, can shift public perception, redirect conversations, and change the course of reputations. And this is exactly what seems to have happened. The leak, whether intentional or accidental, sent shockwaves through social media, news outlets, and Hollywood circles alike. Headlines screamed. Analysts speculated. Fans debated. Critics opined. And throughout it all, the public was left with tantalizing fragments. A video here, a rumored timeline there, a cryptic statement from Jessica Mulroney hinting at knowledge she could not remain silent about. So why should you care? Why should this matter to the average viewer scrolling through YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter? Because this story isn't just about celebrity gossip. It's about power, trust, and the way secrets can reshape lives. It's about how carefully curated images can crumble in an instant. It's about the fragile line between public persona and private reality, and the devastating consequences when that line is crossed. And it's about human emotion, betrayal, loyalty, ambition, and the often painful choices we make when everything we value is on the line. But here's the kicker. Despite the scandal, the controversy, and the public fascination, there is a deeper layer to this story, one that has yet to fully emerge. There are questions that remain unanswered. What really motivated Jessica to release this information? What were Meghan's intentions, her feelings, and her calculations during these moments? And perhaps most importantly, what comes next? Because in the world of fame and influence, the fallout from such revelations rarely ends quickly. The reverberations are felt across careers, relationships, and public perception, and sometimes, the most shocking outcomes are still ahead, waiting just beyond the headlines. By now, you may be wondering, how did it all escalate? How did a single video, or the mere suggestion of it, ignite a media storm so intense that it reached the highest echelons of celebrity and royal circles alike? And that's precisely what we're going to unpack in this video. Step by step, moment by moment, we'll explore the timeline, the key players, the secrets, the betrayals, and the shocking twists that make this story impossible to ignore. Imagine a young woman, ambitious, smart, and determined, navigating the unpredictable waters of Hollywood while carrying dreams bigger than most people could even articulate. This was Meghan Markle in her early 20s, fresh out of college, poised to make a name for herself in the world of acting and media. On the surface, she seemed to have it all, a promising career, a charismatic personality, and a sense of purpose. But beneath the polish and poise, there were complexities that few people could see, let alone understand. Enter Trevor. Trevor, a young producer with an eye for opportunity and a charm that could disarm almost anyone, was everything Meghan needed at the time, or so it seemed. Their paths crossed in a world where ambition met artistry, where connections could make or break a career, and where personal relationships were often intertwined with professional pursuits. From the beginning, their connection was electric, almost cinematic. It was the kind of meeting that made people believe in destiny, in serendipity, in the idea that two people could find each other amid the chaos of Hollywood and recognize a shared spark. Their courtship was fast-paced but intense. Friends described them as inseparable, constantly supporting one another while navigating the pressures of work, social appearances, and the early stages of a life together. Meghan, ever the driven individual, balanced her career aspirations with her new relationship, often making sacrifices to maintain the delicate equilibrium. Trevor, equally ambitious, seemed to match her energy and vision, understanding the demands and expectations that came with being part of Hollywood's elite circles. Yet, even in these early days, there were subtle signs that not everything was as perfect as it appeared. Relationships, especially in the high-pressure environment of Los Angeles, are rarely straightforward. There were moments of tension, quiet disagreements, and unspoken doubts. Meghan, fiercely independent, sometimes struggled to reconcile her personal ambitions with the expectations of a partner. Trevor, meanwhile, faced his own pressures, career goals, social expectations, and the challenge of supporting a partner whose star was beginning to rise faster than his own. The dynamics of their early relationship set the stage for the events that would later define public perception. While they appeared outwardly harmonious, their private lives were more complicated. There were discussions about career trajectories, long-term plans, and the eventual idea of marriage. Both were young, idealistic, and somewhat naive about the realities of long-term commitment in a world where personal and professional boundaries often blur. But it wasn't all tension and negotiation. There were moments of genuine connection, laughter, and shared dreams. These early memories became the foundation for a bond that, at least initially, seemed unbreakable. They traveled together, explored opportunities, and celebrated milestones, creating an image of a couple deeply in love and aligned in purpose. To outsiders, they represented the ideal partnership, supportive, ambitious, and harmonious. Yet, as is often the case, appearances can be deceiving. Behind closed doors, Meghan grappled with the pressures of her emerging career and the realities of her relationship. The industry she had chosen demanded perfection, constant visibility, and the ability to navigate both opportunity and scrutiny with grace. For Trevor, supporting her meant not only managing his own ambitions, but also ensuring that the relationship remained stable amidst the unpredictable tides of Hollywood life. As time went on, their relationship faced increasing pressures. Social circles, media attention, and the inherent stress of two young people trying to carve out meaningful lives in a competitive environment began to reveal cracks. There were disagreements about priorities, miscommunications about expectations, and the inevitable moments where individual ambitions clashed with the needs of a partnership. These challenges, though subtle at the time, would later play a significant role in the dissolution of their marriage. It's important to recognize that Meghan's early experiences with Trevor were not unique in the sense of personal struggle or relationship tension. What made this relationship particularly significant, however, was its timing in her life and career trajectory. She was on the cusp of major professional breakthroughs, and the decisions she made during this period would set the tone for the rest of her public and private life. Trevor's role, therefore, was not only that of a partner, but also a participant in the complex negotiation between love, ambition, and the emerging pressures of celebrity. Despite the challenges, there were moments of intense intimacy and mutual support that suggested a deeper connection. Friends recalled evenings spent planning future endeavors, quiet nights reflecting on personal growth, and shared laughter that hinted at a compatibility deeper than mere attraction. These moments of closeness, however fleeting, created a contrast with the tensions that were also present, highlighting the duality of their early relationship. And yet, even as their bond seemed strong, there were undercurrents of uncertainty. Meghan, increasingly aware of her own potential and the opportunities before her, began to grapple with questions about identity, purpose, and the alignment of personal and professional goals. Trevor, meanwhile, faced his own reflections on ambition, public perception, and the role he wanted to play in a rapidly changing relationship dynamic. These reflections, though private, would have long-lasting implications for their connection and for the way their story would later be interpreted by the public. By the time they were engaged, Meghan and Trevor had already navigated a complex web of personal growth, career development, and relational negotiation. Their engagement, while celebrated publicly, masked the deeper challenges and tensions that existed beneath the surface. Friends and acquaintances often remarked on the couple's charm, intelligence, and compatibility, but few could see the nuanced interplay of ambition, expectation, and emerging personal identity that characterized their early relationship. It was during this period that Meghan's life began to intersect with the larger forces that would eventually define her public persona. Hollywood, with its relentless pace, scrutiny, and opportunity, began to exert pressure on the relationship in ways that were difficult to anticipate. Trevor, as a partner, navigated these pressures alongside her, but the challenges were only beginning. The stakes were rising, and the decisions made in these early days would echo far beyond the private sphere, influencing public perception, media narratives, and the eventual trajectory of Meghan's personal and professional life.